Welcome back to Suburban Living. This is Ed. We're continuing to work on this deck. The underside is undercoated. This upper side, where most of the rust is that I want to take care of, is here on the flat section underneath the belt cover. I got this sanded down here pretty well. Got the rust really sanded down and worked down with a wire brush, and also a lap wheel. This wheel has pieces of 80 grit sandpaper around on it. What I intend to do is rust reform this area, and that way I can start putting JB weld on this area to smooth it out for the final paint. I'm going to sand around here. I'm going to give it a final sanding before I paint it, but those sections aren't going to need any JB weld filler as far as I know. And I want to get this coat of rust reformer on this so that I might get some JB weld on it. Okay guys, this has been rust reformed. That'll give me a good clean surface onto which the JB weld hopefully will hold well. That way I can get some of this area cleaned up, some of the pitting taken care of. Functionally, the deck is solid. The deck will be fine, but I wanted it to look good. This section here, you see there's some pitting here and a little pitting around. I'm not going to worry about it too much underneath the belt cover because that won't obviously be seen. A lot of work to do around here. Just sanding around through here with some 80 or 60 grit sandpaper. Get some of that rust and paint off of there. I'll go ahead and prime the entire deck after I get it to that point. I'm going to let this dry, and after it dries good, I'm going to start putting some JB weld in here, and then I'll be sanding that down. So just stay tuned for that. Kind of making a mess here, I guess. I sprayed this with rust converting spray paint. After it dried, I mixed up JB weld to just fill in the pitted places in the top of this deck, especially under the belt cover. Now that takes about 24 hours to set. It is spread out pretty thin. I've used just that one set of JB weld tubes there, and I patched the hole here, which ended up looking pretty good really, and patched underneath as well, and then completely coated this deck. I'm going to take sandpaper once it is dry and sand that down, and after that point I will sand the rest of the deck, and I'm going to give it all a good coat of Rust-Oleum primer, and then at that point see if it needs any slight fill, and then it'll be ready for a top coat of implement paint, top coat of white. So stay tuned, and next time guys, finish sanding the top of the deck, sanding the front lip. I don't know how well you can see this. I'm kind of looking in the sun here. Turned out pretty good. This is just the rust reformer. There's a few places I need to fill. This back in here is a little rough. I filled it with JB weld, smoothed it out some with the sander, and then just kind of primed over it. I'm not going to worry about that too much. That's in underneath the belt cover. I'm not building an old Mustang here. I'm just restoring, and I use that word restore in a very loose way. The idea of restoration is to put something back in original condition when it was new, and I'm trying my best to get it cleaned up, painted, rust taken care of. That way it's just a good serviceable deck. Alright, I'll get back with you whenever I get a coat of paint on this. Okay guys, the deck is coming along nicely. It has been completely sanded, it has been rust converted, it has been filled in places. Not perfect, but it's looking pretty good. Just put this final coat of primer on it, and I'm pretty happy with the way it's turning out. I don't know how well you can see that on the camera, but it looks good. No rust holes at all in the deck now that I patched that one hole. I'm happy with it. I think it turning out really well. This is going to get a coat of white paint. Now you can see here there's some imperfections where I fill with a little JB Weld just to try to fill in some of those holes, or not holes, those pitted sections. Rust converted it and took care of it. Most of that's going to be covered up with the belt cover. A few pitted places back here that I rust converted. Not really too concerned with it, just to be honest. It's going to be a good serviceable deck. Alright, thank you. Stay tuned for the next update as we work on the other parts to put this back together and get this painted white.